Welcome back to another fine episode of some bullshit here at Yorkshire the Record Jerks Record Palace, a magical wonderland where records are made of vinyl and vinyls do not exist. Today we got to do another contest entry. It's contest season. Everybody putting out some goddamn contests. And I try not to get sucked into the contest thing too much because I got my own shit to talk about. But when it's one of the homies, you gotta support, right? So today we're gonna be doing a contest for that homie, Clifford the Vinyl Cheapskate, Little Cliffy Claff, Clifford McClifferson, Cliffy Cliffaroo, Cliff Johnson McClonson, Cheap Cliff the Cheapskate, Big Cliffy McCheapcheeps, Old Cheapy McCliffalots. You know, Clifford. If you don't fucking know, check out the link. I'll put in the thing like you do to his channel, right? He's a fine young man with fine records to show you. So check it out. Anyway, so this is my entry into his Show Me Your Inner Cheapskate competition. Begin! You know, when I started seriously collecting records in like the 90s, buying records was the cheapskate thing to do. Everybody was getting rid of their vinyl and fucking buying CDs and shit, right? At the record store, the records were cheap as fuck and the CDs was what was expensive. That was probably part of the whole reason I became a record collector in the first place. It's because it was way fucking cheaper. But oh, how the tables have turned. Now everybody sees it my way about how records is cooler anyway, and now that shit ain't so cheap anymore. What a fucking bummer, man. Not only did the recent hippening of vinyl records make our prices go up, but even before that, the invention of fucking eBay and Discogs and all these fucking websites where you can buy shit have fucking helped raise prices up quite a bit, you know? Because now any goddamn store or any flea market or any fool that feels like it can look up a record online and be like, well, I want $100 for this shit. Where before, man, people be like, I ain't never heard of this shit. $1, right? Deals abounded in the early days for me. But that is all like decades ago now, so it's a little hard to remember the early magical grabs and killer deals and $1 fines and shit. But I dug out enough bullshit to talk about. This video, as prescribed by Dr. Cliff McClifferson, is just gonna highlight some of the sweet deals and killer finds that us faithful hunters occasionally, very occasionally these days, will come across. Yeah. So his first question, he wants to see a record that I paid $1 for. Can do. Back in the darker days of being an independent record store, one of my very favorite spots, the Record Archive in Rochester, New York, was closing down one of its stores. It had two locations, ended up packing up the one of them and consolidating them both into one spot. Praises be to the record gods that the Record Archive is still out there peddling their wares. A killer spot. If you're ever going through Rochester, New York, you gotta check it out. Some of my best homies are still working there, not to mention metal god Danny Lilker works there. Like, holy shit, right? How cool is that? You can go buy your Nuclear Assault or fucking Anthrax or SOD records, get them fucking signed right on the spot. The great Danny Lilker. But word up cheers to fucking Shark and Lon and fucking all y'all down there. Anyway, way back when, they had this fucking location on Mount Hope Avenue that was fucking kick-ass with a big, gigantic record room that I bought a ton of shit from. Actually, these fucking record shelves back here, I bought from there too, man. They had them in the dumpster. They're just gonna throw these fuckers out. And I said I wanted them, and they're like, oh, it's $25 a piece. I'm like, you're throwing the fuckers out. I bought them anyway, because they're fucking cool. It's nice to flip this way instead of that way, you know, looking at the spines. But it takes up way more space this way, you know. Not as storage space efficient, but it's sure nice for fucking flipping through, you know. Flipping through. So not only did I get those 6 shelves there, they also had a whole fucking giant record room that they didn't want to have to move every single record. So they fucking marked $1 on all this shit. I'm sure they pulled out, like, you know, some special bullshit before they set everything to $1. But let me tell you, there was still thousands of records to go through at $1 each. And I don't remember how long that lasted, but I mean, I definitely picked that fucking room a few weekends in a row grabbing dollar fucking shit, you know? And I definitely do not remember everything I pulled out of there. But I do remember a couple of the ones I got for $1 from that bittersweet closing sale. And here's one of them. Here's Little Richard, Specialty Records. This is a 1957 mono repressing. I believe it's a second press, but from the same year it came out. So a pretty early press. Some complete jackass named Trost wrote his fucking name really big all over it like an asshole. But look at that beauty. Here's Little Richard. Are you fucking kidding me? Tutti Frutti, Ready Teddy, slipping and sliding. Long Tall Sally, rip it up, Jenny. It's fucking 100% kick-ass rock and roll from the early days. For my money, you can't beat some goddamn Little Richard. This one's a little crazy because it's like he doesn't got his piano there and it's like, is this dude about to shit his pants or what is going on? Fucking killer, perfect rock and roll album. It's fucking Little Richard. And that's not all. Same store, same sale, different $1 bill, same jag-ass ruining the record covers. Fucking Trost strikes again. Elvis, the second album by Elvis Presley. Yeah. Fucking Trost strikes again even on the label. Like a scumbag. This is a little bit later present, appears to be a 1964 repress of his second LP from 1956. And I ain't a huge Elvis dude. I'll put on Little Richard or Chuck Berry over Elvis every time. But Elvis was the king, or so they say. And this early Elvis shit is still fucking rock and roll shit. Elvis wimped out and went commercial pretty early on. But these first couple LPs are some rock and roll shit. Strangely enough, it's got a lot of the same fucking songs that Little Richard had, man. Ready Teddy, Rip It Up, Long Tall Sally, you know. Also, Love Me. I love that song, Love Me. That's one of my favorites by him from back then. $1 rock and roll, I'm in. But it wasn't all rock and roll shit, right? Most of this kind of stuff had been pulled out before they marked it down to $1. And my buddy that worked there was even like, damn, you found that in the dollar shit? Oops. But what I did grab heavily during the dollar sale was some blues shit, right? I was on a bit of a blues kick, and I grabbed these two from my absolute favorite blues player, Lightning Hopkins. That's my favorite kind of blues, is just a dude and a guitar. I don't really need a full band to do the blues. I just need some lightning. A dude with his guitar telling it like it is. This one here is just self-titled, but really what it is like a 70s or 80s repress of his 1962 Mojo Hand LP. And this one here is a 1969 double LP just called Lightning on Poppy Industries. Both kick-ass, acoustic blues. Lightning Hopkins is the fucking man. The last one I specifically remember getting at that dollar sale is this thing here, Patrick Fitzgerald Gifts and Telegrams. This is a 1982 LP put out by Red Flame Records. And we talked about Patrick Fitzgerald a little bit on this channel before, but this is a different kind of Patrick Fitzgerald record, right? He's most well known for his like acoustic punk shit, of which he was one of the first people to do that kind of shit. But that was in the 70s. This is like the early 80s. And Patrick's on like a downer-ass, depressing, fucking, kind of bleak, electronic keyboard kind of shit going on here. Lyrically and vocally, not too far off from what he was doing. And keyboard shit is not really my thing at all, really, but this record I always fucking dug, man. It's pretty depressing shit. Patrick Fitzgerald, Gifts and Telegrams. Every one of them motherfuckers well worth $1. Well worth more than $1. Moving along. Next question, he wants us to show some cheap heat. Meaning, show some records that are always like cheap to buy, but are fucking kick-ass. And this is a great question. I was thinking a couple months ago about doing a video on this fucking topic, and I probably still will someday. Because this is a fucking great subject for anybody into buying records. Like, show me some shit that rules that is also cheap as fuck. Because especially nowadays, man, prices are stupid for a lot of shit. So it's good to know you can still grab some killer shit for fucking a couple bucks. I'm gonna start off with this one, the Bacteria LP by Collapse. This is German hardcore punk from 1988. Collapse with no E. First things first, look at this fucking frog that's turning into a skeleton. Would you look at the frog? Just look at the frog. Look at the fucking thing, man. Come on. Frog is turning into a skeleton, hanging out with full skeleton guy. I like this picture. It's cool to look at, but it's crazy. It's much nicer to look at than the back cover. I don't care for this side nearly as much as Frog's side. Anyway, 1988 AA Records. And this is great 80s hardcore punk rock from Germany. Cool guitar lines, good vocals, hardcore punk. The median price this thing sells for on Discogs is $5.49. I had this thing shipped to my house after paying for shipping and taxes and everything. It was like $8 and some change for this great punk record with a weird frog cover. Who could say no? Who could say no to this? You gonna say no to this? You can't say no to this. Collapse. More Cheap Heat. New Math. They Walk Among You. I fucking love this record a lot. Probably one of my top couple favorite LPs to come out of my hometown, Rochester, New York. New Math started off in the late 70s, kind of walking the line between punkier shit and new wavier shit. They got one great fucking single, Die Trying, that's fucking 100% killer. I know Ryan Kidd showed that one a little bit ago. Then they put out like a more ska flavored single, that's alright. But then comes the They Walk Among You 12-inch EP. And this fucking record is great. They had much more moved into a death rock sound at this point. Fucking great gothy punk rock death rock shit, man. 5 songs. The first 4 are all like, to me, prime fucking death rock kind of shit. The last one, American Survival's more of a punky number. All 5 songs are great. 415 Records, 1981. 415 is a cool label, man. They put out the Nuns, Rocky Erickson, Popo Pies. Lots of cool shit. Grab this fucking one. The median price on Discogs is $6 for a copy of this thing. Shit rules. After this, they did one more LP as New Math. Then they changed their name to the Jet Black Berries and put out some more shit. You may recognize that name from the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack. Cool band. Fucking Cheap Heat. High recommendation. Let's pull another one. Flag of Democracy, Down with People. Another album cover to really look at. Check out this dude. It's a fine pose for a fine picture. Flag of Democracy, long-standing Philadelphia hardcore punk band. This is their 3rd record, I think. Maybe their 4th. I think it's the 3rd. 1990. Real cool band, fast hardcore punk. The singer has fucking wild vocals. Cool band. Flag of Democracy, aka FOD. Name checked in some Dead Milkman tune, I believe. Median Discogs price of $4.88. Well worth it. Let's pull one more for Cheap Heat, because I fucking like this topic. How about this thing? Angel City, face-to-face LP. Angel City goes by this name in the United States, at least. But I know in Australia, where they're from, they're just called the Angels. But they had to change their name on the fucking US releases. So, there's also this same LP by the Angels called Face to Face that has a slightly different track listing and probably is not as cheap as this version. But that's okay because this version rules. This is a 1980 US release of a 1978 Australian album. We're watching you. Epic Records. I don't show a lot of Epic Records on this channel, so soak up the major label while you can. Anyway, these guys play kick-ass, hard rock and roll shit. Maybe somewhere between like AC/DC and Cheap Trick. Something in there. Like 70s hard rock kind of shit, but like maybe a tiny bit more garagey. But I don't know, right in that realm. Good shit. Kinda surprised these guys didn't get a bigger name over here, man. Like, pretty much every song on here rules. Am I Ever Gonna See Your Face Again is like fucking timeless classic. It should have been a worldwide hit. Great band. They're watching you. Median Discogs price, $5. It's a deal. Rock and roll shit. Bam. Alright, his 3rd question was to show an all-around great score. When you scored big for only a couple bucks. One of the greatest feelings in all of record collecting, yeah. And this one's a fucking doozy, man. Definitely one of my best scores of the last fucking decade. On eBay of all places. Because it's almost impossible to find good deals on eBay anymore. But I found this one a couple years back, man. Just dumb luck. I had the wide-eye 7-inch as one of my, like, notify me when that shit gets listed, you know? And it popped up one day. Buy it now for $15. I was like, no fucking way. It's gotta be a fucking repress or a bootleg or something, right? So I click on it and it looks legit. And whoever was selling it, like, was clearly not a record person. They clearly had it look shit up. And they didn't list anything about the fucking condition of the record or anything like that. They just had pictures. I was like, well, I'm gonna take a chance for $15. And you might be like, dude, $15 for a 7-inch is not that great of a deal. But then if you went and looked this 7-inch up and see what it goes for, you'd realize, yes, it is a pretty fucking great deal. This is another Philadelphia hardcore punk band. This came out in 1983 on Blood Bubble Records. Pretty cool name for a record label. It's fucking fast, furious, pissed off, super tough hardcore punk rock with a dude named Jackal on the vocals. This shit rules. Like top notch early 80s hardcore shit. You know, so if this thing pops up on eBay for $15, buy it now. I had to make my decision quick if I was gonna take the chance, since I didn't know if it was a boot, since I wasn't sure if the vinyl was gonna be all scratched up. I was like, fuck it, I'm taking the chance. Buy it now. Boom, did it. So then, of course, after that, I see what else the person's selling. And it's like a bunch of old women's clothing and shoes and shit. Like 30 listings of women's clothing. And then, amidst all the blouses, this fucking record. Violent Children. Another one. Buy it now, $15. Again, look it up if you think $15 is a lot for a 7-inch. Killer deal. Here we got some Connecticut hardcore punk rock from 1984 with a young Ray Capel on drums who'd go on to sing for Youth of Today, right? Insert all that shit. Wonderful condition. $15, buy it now. I'm like, what the hell? I looked through the rest of her listings. More women's clothes and a couple like regular boring 80s records that you see all the time. Just these two random super rare hardcore records for $15 each. And I said, wow. So I waited anxiously for them to arrive in the mail. And they finally showed up, and I'll be damned if they weren't both real originals in super nice shape. So I write this person back. I'm like, you got any more records like that? And they're like, yeah, I think so. Let me see what I have, and I'll list some more tonight. They even told me like what time they're going to start putting stuff up, right? So there I am waiting by my phone. It's like, what else you got? What else you got? The next one that pops up, boom, Black Flag 6-pack 7-inch. I already had a version of this, but this was like the first pressing, SST of course, and this one was even cheaper. She wanted like $8 for it. Buy it now. Boom, I'll take it. I'm not gonna describe Black Flag to you if you don't know Black Flag, just look it up, the shit rules. Then they listed a couple more like regular mass-produced rock albums, you know? And I'm like, damn, that's all they got, right? But no, there was more. Next pops up this fucking thing. Beaver. Beaver. Not quite as rare as the first two, but still not a cheap record. Buy it now, $10. Beaver, I'll take it. This is 1981 hardcore punk from Maryland, but they're in Maryland close enough that it's got that early 80s Discord vibe. You see, you got the X's there. They recorded in Washington, D.C. Thanks to Ian MacKay, John Stabb, Tesco V-Right. Discord Records includes the insert. Once again, great shape. So bam, 4 pretty hard to find and not cheap original 80s hardcore punk singles at a fraction of their value. I ended up not picking up any of the blouses or females' clothing, and right when I was about to give up, they listed one more big one. Minor Threat, Out of Step, first press, black back, all sorts of fun stuff on the inside. Look at that, it's radical. And this one being a 12-inch, she ups the price to $20, buy it now. Discord Records number 10. So after all that, she said she was all tapped out on this kind of stuff. I got all 5 of these for just under $70. But that wasn't it. I bought one more thing off of her, the NWA Express Yourself single, which again was $10. And my original intention was to keep that record because NWA fucking rules. But then I decided to recoup some of my costs. So I ended up selling the NWA record that I bought for $10 from them for $90 on eBay or Discogs or somewhere. And so I made enough money from selling the one record to end up with all of these for the low cost of nothing. And that's how you do it. But those are the glorious things that almost never happen. It's harder these days, but it still happens. This was only like 2 years ago. So keep your eyes peeled. Question number 4. He wants to see a budget bin score. Some cool shit I pulled out of the budget bin for cheap. Very well. Grab these out of the budget bin of another killer record store in Rochester, New York called Fantastic Records. R.I.P. Fantastic Records, they ain't around no more. But I used to love that spot. And they had a new budget rack they had set up fucking years ago. And everything in it was $1.50. And here's what I found. Code of Honor. Beware the Seventh Jaw. This came out in 1984 on Subterranean Records, which of course it did, as their guitar player Michael Fox here is one of the co-founders of Subterranean Records. That dude also played in like Sick Pleasure and the Tools. Some of the other dudes in this band were also in Sick Pleasure. The singer's from Society Dog. One of the dudes played in fucking Verbal Abuse, right? And I would think rattling off the names of the other bands they played in should give you a pretty good idea what the sound of this is. West Coast hardcore punk, killer shit. Little bit of a skate vibe to it, little bit, not too much. It's wonderful. I really dig this band. They did the split LP with Sick Pleasure, which I think for that, just like the whole band was the same. It was just a different singer between Sick Pleasure and Code of Honor. Sick Pleasure had Nicky Sicky. He was a little more negative lyrically. This guy's not quite so pissed off, but shit rules. Good one. $1.50 is a fucking deal. Same store, same day, same $1.50 wreck. Also pulled this sucker out of there. Guns N' Roses Lies, right?
Live like a suicide.
Some newspapers. Here's the fellas hanging out with their hats and shit. This is the second press, came out in 1988. I think the first press had a couple other headlines on this cover that they got censored out or some shit. I don't care, $1.50. Think the age I am and when I came up, I can't help but love some Guns N' Roses in my life once in a while. You know, so this one has the acoustic side and the live side. It's Guns N' Roses. You never heard Guns N' Roses? Sounds like fucking Guns N' Roses. $1.50, I'll take it all day. And Guns N' Roses back then, you could buy this shit. It was all over the place, man. Nowadays, this type of shit has gotten more expensive, but man, back then, these things were all over the place. But even so, I remember when I brought it up, the fucking manager was up there. They're like, man, who the fuck put Guns N' Roses in the $1.50 section? I was like, but really, for me, Code of Honor was the cooler score. They're both cool. I like them all. Just Guns N' Roses you can find everywhere. And like, Code of Honor like never popped up in my fucking shitty city on the east coast of the country, you know? So that's cool. I was pumped. But they're both good records. Well worth $1.50 each. All right. Last question. He wants to see a thrift store find. I tell you what, I don't go to a hell of a lot of thrift stores anymore, man. Back in the day, they used to be part of the route, you know? But the returns are pretty low. And then when I moved out where I'm at now, man, I checked out some of the fucking thrift stores and fucking never really had any cool scores. And then I made kids. And now my time is like way more fucking limited. So if I'm gonna go out and hunt records in the wild, I'm gonna go to like an actual record store. Because I don't have a million hours a day to try and hit 5 places in a row and hope there's something cool, you know? I want to go someplace where I know I'll find something cool. So I haven't been on the fucking thrift store circuit in a while. But like I said, back in the day, when I was young and had no responsibilities and shit, I would definitely roll through those places. And still, I don't feel like I ever scored any like real cool shit. I've seen some of you guys pull some crazy shit out of thrift stores, man. That has not happened to me. And even more so than records, I mean, I remember back in the day having better luck with like CDs and tapes than fucking records. But I did find this one cool one at a Goodwill back in the day. This is the 391 12-inch EP on Posh Boy Records, 1981. Comes in this weird generic Posh Boy sleeve that they would use on some of their shit. It's in pretty nice shape for a thrift store score. I had no fucking clue who they were at the time. I just saw the Posh Boy thing, and so I figured it was worth a shot, you know? Because obviously Posh Boys put out a ton of great California punk shit. But as it turns out, you see they got Jeff there on vocals, man. That's the dude from the Nuns, right? And I love me some fucking Nuns, dude. That band was kick-ass. So they had like the male-female vocals, you know. They had Jennifer singing the girl parts. And then this dude Jeff that sang the boy parts. And he has a cool fucking voice. It's got a real fucking down and dirty, dark-ass fucking tinged rock and roll voice, man. And that's what you get on this record. Some down and dirty, dark rock and roll shit. Discog says it's a power pop record, man. I don't really fucking subscribe to that listening to it, man. You know, I hear power pop, I think of fucking suits and ties and dorky haircuts and fucking sounding all happy and singing about chicks and shit. And that's not exactly what's going on here, man. This is way darker than that. But it's not some hardcore punk shit. But musically, I mean, if you got down with the Nuns, I would think you can get down with some 391. Cool record. It's the only thing these guys put out from what I can tell. They did have some tracks that were on the Siren compilation, and the fucking Siren compilation rules, man. Also out on Posh Boy has Red Cross, these guys, and fucking Spittin' Teeth. Great compilation. Spittin' Teeth fucking rules. Destruction. Check that track, Destruction, by Spittin' Teeth, man. Shit rules. Anyway, 391 thrift store score. And that's all we got, man. That's this week's video. Big ups to Lil Cliffy. for giving us the idea for a goddamn Cheapskate video. I like it. Cheap records were my favorite. I can't wait till records are cheap again. Anyway, it's been real fucking swell. Next week I'll talk about some other shit.